Half Past Yellow are a small development team from Denmark who found inspiration in games like A Short Hike and Pan Pan, two of my absolute favourites on Switch, and Time on Frog Island was born out of this seeming desire to slow down the pace of games and re-emphasise fun and freedom. A thanks to the publisher Merge Games, I'm Mark Walker, welcome back to SwitchUp. Is it as good as it looks, or has it left me a little unhappy? Well, let's find out. The narrative of Time on Frog Island centres around the main protagonist who finds himself shipwrecked on this island, and you'll find a few hidden references to pop culture, including Wilson, but proceedings are kept intentionally opaque. But every time you sleep there's a hand-depicted scene which seems to give some small insight into the character's life before their time on the island, and I don't want to spoil it, but you can draw some conclusions as to what took place and why they now travel the high seas alone. As far as reviewing goes, Time on Frog Island doesn't lend itself to that process. There's a real intrinsic designed emphasis on the player taking things at their own pace. As such, a reviewer trying to blast their way through this may not be able to grasp or at least articulate that feeling. I will do my best. You're deposited upon the shores of Frog Island, which as the title suggests is filled with these anthropomorphic frogs, all going about their daily lives with different professions and whose interactions are limited to picture images which show what they're currently struggling with, and it's up to your character to try and help them. Why exactly are you doing this? Well, they'll gradually help you to rebuild your vessel and hopefully leave the island. On an entirely superficial level, it amounts to several fetch quest style missions, but that doesn't really do justice to the design. It feels a little more like a point-and-click adventure without any words, but there is a learning curve here, as you struggle in the early stages to understand exactly what's going on with zero tutorial. One character may simply show a bell with an exclamation mark. You have no idea where you need to go, but then by happenstance you'll hear a bell chime and piece together that that's an irritation for them and that you need to take that out. The issue will be if you don't piece that together, because every task in the game boils down to a lateral thinking puzzle. Find a group of scarecrows in the field and notice that the crows are eating them constantly. It's up to you to figure that out. The simplified control system amounts to picking things up, throwing them, and jumping. There's no combining of items, there's no inventory management, and while Frog Island isn't overly large, you will still find yourself getting lost, and it's another element that the developers intended. Now what I don't think they intended was the frustration that can come from losing items. Now certain things in the world will respawn when you sleep at night. How do you sleep? Well, there are several campfires, and you throw pieces of wood on them, 3 in fact, and then you can rest. But there is a persistence with certain key items. That means that when you're foolish enough to let your 6-year-old have a play of the game, and you go upstairs to sort something out, only to return to find that they have hidden the item you need, and there's seemingly no way for you to find it. You realise the potential for frustration here. Now thankfully I stumbled across it at the top of a mountain. I'm not entirely sure how he managed to get up there so fast. Kids, but you get my point. The free-flowing adventure is facilitated with a weighted movement physics system. Everything in the world has physical properties. As such, you may place something down only to find it rolls off the mountain, but there's no fall damage, so you can jump after it, and that weighted physics applies to the main character as well, giving them a momentum as they move. Combine that with some items like a leaf which helps you to glide, and a jump that has some inertia adjustment, and navigating around is a real pleasure. Dashing from one place to the next, undertaking time trial sprints through these gates, or teleporting from one side to the other. Now just as with A Short Hike, you can complete the game in a relatively short time, but I don't feel the balancing is quite right here in terms of difficulty. You might look at this and think, difficulty? What are you on about? Well, it's that specificity of what every character needs combined with zero help from both the game and UI. Even giving the player a small map or scroll that had a list of the different tasks that you are undertaking, just picture form would be fine. But as it is, you'll often forget an item, have to go back to the character, reinstigate the conversation and work out what it is they want, or lose an item, as I mentioned before, and spend a while looking around for it. And then there are the genuinely difficult roadblock sections. One in particular saw me trying to access the mountain, and I couldn't, for love nor money, figure out how on earth to get the key. Now, in the game's defense, they actually let you break that system. There was a sneaky side route that I could get through, and I even gained an in-game achievement for doing so. so. But there's no doubt in my mind they could do more in terms of assisting the player without ruining that experience they're going for. Even a compass would help. The island has a day-night cycle. At night time, your character gets tired and you need to go and sleep, but also everyone will go to bed. After you've rebuilt your ship and completed the game, you can return to the island to finish any tasks that you hadn't done. There are loads of optional activities, races, things to build, and other small tasks to complete. But it all amounts to the same thing. Running around for one item, trying to find it, trying to work out how to use it, and then returning it to its owner. My enjoyment of that freedom was slightly limited, as I always knew that I'd have to come back to simply finding one thing and carrying it to one person. And it doesn't entirely avoid the old time-wasting trap, whereby you complete a task and the character says come back tomorrow. So you run all the way back to base, collect up 3 logs, build the fire, sleep, wake up, and then run back to them again. There are aspects then of the game that I really love. I like that there's no dialogue. I enjoy the picture-based task system, and the whimsical freedom with which you can traverse the island puts a smile on your face. Unfortunately, navigation and discovery can be a bit frustrating, and the hands-off approach may put some players off. And I'd say the developers need to do something as far as losing items in the world. But in contrast, you might be sat there thinking, well, that's exactly what I wanted, and you'll enjoy that. For me though, the balance isn't quite right yet. I give gameplay 12 out of 20. And the controls, which amount to essentially 2 buttons, are fine, but the selection zone for giving a player an item can be a bit small, which had the unintended consequence of me throwing the item past them, or if it was an egg, right in their face. Control score 14 out of 20. Onto visuals, performance and audio then. And visually, I love the painterly style of this game. The physics system gives everything a buoyancy and momentum that really translates perfectly to its whimsical nature. Your character almost flops a little as they jump, hopping from lily pad to lily pad. They dip and tilt under the surface, and then gliding short distances. It looks lovely. It has a consistent and coherent artistic direction, and the clever use of imagery generally makes you able to decide exactly what item you're going for next. Performance though currently has some issues, although there will be a day 1 patch which is said to address some of these. Do make sure you check out the top comment, as I'll make sure to update that with my experience. Currently it's stuttering sometimes at around 30 frames per second. There are some areas like the cave system which drops right down. It's not game-breakingly bad, but they need to get that running smoothly. The audio work is excellent. There's a great soundtrack here, but it's the ambient sounds and some of the creatures in the environment that really impressed me about the visuals and audio. But don't get me started on those that never leave you alone. It's like that scene in Terminator 2 where he's chasing the car. Visuals and performance currently score 16 out of 20. And the sound and audio design scores 15 out of 20. Until the 25th of the month, the game has a 20% discount, but its RRP is £19.99 or your regional equivalent. You're looking at around about a 4 to 5 hour adventure, plus some extra content that you can go back for. Put that alongside a short hike, which in fairness is a briefer game. That title retails at £6.29. And then Pan Pan, which is a similar title, is £4.99. I just think the developers have gone a little bit too high with that pricing. There will be a physical version coming out, so undoubtedly you'll be able to find it more cheaply, and it's clearly a labour of love for this small team. But around about the £10 mark would have been the sweet spot. You're well within impulse buy territory, you can forgive some of its misgivings, and it suits more the runtime of the game. I'd give value 12 out of 20. Now, I have enjoyed my time on Frog Island. I absolutely love these types of games. It's the ultimate in terms of giving the player absolute freedom over what they do, but that is sometimes at the expense of some frustration and getting stuck in a game that's supposed to be about relaxing and enjoying the slow pace. With a little refinement in the navigation systems, this could be incredible for the masses, but for the niche it's intended, I think they'll still find some pleasure here. It gets a SwitchUp score of 69%. Let me know down in the comments, is this one you're interested in, and will you be picking it up? Thanks as always to all of you, and do check out one of these videos if you enjoy the channel and consider sticking around. Thanks to our patrons and all of you, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya! Hey. What?